Prologue. 100 years ATR. In the year 2025, American astronauts stumbled upon something long forgotten, something that decimated 98% of all living things on Earth. Whatever they disturbed on the moon, it was furious at being awakened. 500 years later, humanity still pays the price for their ancestors' sins. The survivors, who call themselves the few, live under the belief that they are the last sentient beings left in the vast expanse of a once thriving planet. 100 years after the rest, a man named Pierce Lawborn united nearly 4,000 of the few. He promised to lead them toward reconnection and purpose. His vision was to build the first creation made after the rest, a machine that would span the continent and bind the scattered back into one, the Unity Train. On May 1st, 2125, Lawborn stood before the crowd of weary survivors. They called him Unifier Father, the man who connected the few with life. At his side stood his wife, Eleanor Phoenix, the steel behind his dream, the mother of their new world. The legend says she stood in her command car, one hand pressed to the glass, as the desert wind screamed past the first rails of the new age. But that came later. First came his speech. Pierce swallowed all fear and pride. He looked to his wife one last time, then faced the people. "Hear me," he said, "for I speak promise. I did not think this was possible. I did not think this many of us remained. But look at what we've done. Humans are foul, stank scum. Mankind's disgusting life deserves to cease." A murmur spread through the crowd like fire through dry grass. "Still," he continued, "see, I know the forgotten truth of old. We're not supposed to be here. We were never supposed to exist. Our ancestors slithered their way out of certain death, and that serpent discretion, that is the disease that cursed the world." Anger rose from the gathered few. Someone shouted. Another threw something wet and brownish-green that struck Lawborn in the chest and splattered across his face. His eyes went wide with fury. Just as he opened his mouth again, Eleanor Phoenix laid a hand on his shoulder. The other she raised to still the crowd. She spoke in a cold, even tone. "My husband gets ahead of himself, and for that I apologize. What he means, regardless of ideology or faith, is that we, as the surviving fraction of humankind, deserve unity. We deserve the embrace of one another. We deserve to rebuild the security that once wrapped the world in warmth." A crooked man in the crowd shouted, "If the next thing out your mouth ain't the point, lady, you and your love-boat hubby die where you stand." His gleaming six-shooter caught the dying light. Eleanor's voice did not waver. "What my husband and I propose is simple. We divide our resources evenly to identify 7 places the old world valued most. Across the new United States run ancient tracks, iron veins waiting to be filled again. If we link them, we will always be connected, always unified." The crowd quieted. Hope, fragile as glass, flickered through them. The crooked man lowered his weapon slightly. "Then why do he preach damnation if you're selling salvation?" Eleanor looked down at him with patient eyes. "My husband and I dream of the same future. We just see different endings." He blinked, digesting the words. "Ha!" he said, and squeezed the trigger. The Damascus bullet left the snake-wrapped barrel and entered Pierce Lawborn's right eye. Lawborn died with his dream unfinished. Eleanor did not flinch. She looked across the sea of stunned faces and saw not loss but opportunity. If her husband was the unifier, she would become something greater, the hand that shaped the new world. Her husband's madness had cracked the door. She would walk through it. Behind her, the first engines roared to life, fueled by the God's still-bleeding gift. And in that moment, as the wind tore the sand from the bones of the old world, Eleanor Phoenix smiled, because she finally understood what she had always desired in the vast expanse of life. Power. Part 1. Chapter 1. Silas Scarn. The sun hangs low over a sky bruised red and purple, the kind of sickly color that makes you think the heavens are rotting from the inside. Heat presses down until the breath feels borrowed. Every swing of my Damascus splitting maul tastes like punishment. The log splits and the thud rolls out over the dust like a drumbeat warning no one hears. "Your body will give out if you keep going like that, boy," my father says from the porch. He rocks slow, chair creaking like a ship that never knew water. He's got his little kit open on one knee, paper, knife, plug of Tabeno. hands moving with a patience that can only come from a lifetime of needing patience to survive. I'll stop when it stops hurting, I tell him. That's not how hurt works. I split another log, then another. The blade sticks, and I wrench it free, shoulder popping, palm stinging. Dust lifts in lazy ghosts and settles back onto everything we own, which is mostly splinters and stories. The house itself looks like we stole it from the ribs of a bigger dead thing and propped it up with stubbornness. Boards don't match. Nails are old world, hammered crooked. The porch rail chews my palm the same way it chews his, same grooves worn by the same hands, men who never learn to be tired until their bones decided for them. He rolls the tabano tight, neat, 2 twists, and holds it up to the late light like testimony. There. Good as sin? Sin's no good, I say. Depends who's writing the book. He smiles without showing teeth. His eyes are bad up close and perfect far away, like he was built to watch the horizon and nothing else. Come on, Silas. Enough wood. Come, sit. I set the maul against the stump and climb the steps. My knees crack. My hands feel like borrowed meat, full of tiny hurts. Pats the seat beside him, and I take it because I always do, because no matter how the world emptied itself out, the evening has rules. He reaches under his chair, pulls a cloth-wrapped shape, and hands me my revolver. Silver and gold, Damascus barrel, the pattern rippling like something alive under the dying light. He closes my hand over it and says, locked and loaded. Always. Off in the flats, the wind drags itself through thorn and bone. The fields we don't plant anymore lie there like something we refuse to admit we miss. There used to be tobacco down by the creek bed. His father's talk, not mine. He calls it tabanio now. Half on purpose, half because he hates to let the old words belong to the old world. He says language is a form of power hoarding, and we shouldn't give the dead another thing to keep. They're coming, he says finally, as if he's tired of pretending he waited to say it. His eyes are pinned to the dark line where the scrub turns to the first rise of the ridge. Night's early again. How many? 9, maybe 11. If 2 ain't doubled, he adds, which is his way of saying the rest bend light in a way that'd make a sane man go back to church. Why so deep? I ask. They don't usually walk this far from the ravine. Maybe it's because Gren Backman's still paying for what he can't undo, my father says. Guilt's loud, calls things, the name snags me sideways. I don't look at him. Don't start ain't starting, just naming what's already happening, then name it something else. He doesn't answer. He chews and watches. The chair creeps back and forth like stalling clouds. An hour spills out between us and the heat dries up whatever passed for mercy in the light. Shadows lengthen. The boards creak in a rhythm I could die to if I had to. I think of Asa in the old creek gully, her hair tied with leather, eyes the same color as the evening. She belongs to night, like it wrote her name down and keeps the paper. I don't ask where she is because we don't ask that anymore. We track her by what comes home dead and by what stays away once it's seen her move. Boy, my father says, softer. You put that look on your face and you'll owe the darker debt you ain't got coins for. Can we not do lessons right now? Lessons ain't a choice. They're a tide. My hands have stopped shaking. That's either courage finding me or fear getting bored. We got enough rounds. We always got enough. You used to say, someday we won't. I lied. His grin widens just enough to show a chip missing from his front tooth. Someday we'll be dead. And then, enough won't matter. Comforting, ain't it? Comforting as a thorn pillow. Better than nothing. He stands slow, every joint counting its way into night. Go check the east fence, he says. Then sit yourself up in the cottonwood. We'll let them do the walking and we'll do the welcoming. I step off the porch. The ground remembers footprints that aren't here anymore. Leans toward the east, like it wants to be elsewhere. The cottonwood is a dead thing with one arm and a crown of thorns. It still throws a shadow big enough to hide in. I climb and nestle in where the bark splits, the maul balanced across my knees, the revolver at my hip. The house looks smaller from up here. My father looks smaller too. He has the posture of a man forcing the world to stay in focus by tilt of head alone. The rest come in pieces at first, flickers where the light kinks, a ripple that isn't wind, the kind of silence that has weight. Then eyes, yellow and mean, lamplight through old grease. Then the bodies under them, wrong in ways you only notice when you try to name them. A shoulder too high. A knee bending both directions. Smiles stretched thin by someone else's fingers. Clothes that look like they remember other owners and other weather. 9, 10. Party, my father calls, raising his voice so I can hear over the wind. They're close enough to smell, but we yell anyway because the rest don't speak our tongue, least not yet. Oh, we're about to have a fucking party is what it seems, boyo. I hope these bastards know it's biobe. Beer went extinct before our time, father. B is for bullets, boyo. His laugh rides the heat like a prayer no God wants. They choose the porch. They always do. The porch is where we pretend to be civilized. It's where we sit our bones in chairs and call ourselves men instead of animals. The rest love to put their feet on human things and wiggle their toes like they belong. Now, my father yells, close enough for me to hear the spit in the word. We shout freely. The rest don't understand a thing we say. Or so we keep telling ourselves. I step off the last stair and plant my feet shoulder-width on the hardpack. The Damascus splitting maul rides high in my hands. Left hand near the knob, right hand choked halfway up the haft. First rule, own the distance. If they live inside your arms, you're meat. The nearest rest comes in loose and smiling like a drunk uncle. I half-step toward it, close the door, and drive the flat of the maul across its clavicle. The hit lands with a wood-on-wood crack. Bone gives. The thing spins, and before it can reorient, I slide my right hand down, bring the head over, and drop it on the top of its spine. The body folds like a camp chair. I let the weight carry through, exhale, reset my stance. Left, my father barks. I pivot on my heel, bring the haft up like a bar. A second rest lunges for my ribs. The haft meets its forearm with a hollow thunk, and I shove, posting the handle against my hip to lever its weight off balance. It spills forward past me. I don't chase, never chase. I hook its ankle with the maul's cheek, yank and stamp the knee. The joint folds wrong. I draw the revolver with my offhand and put a short Damascus hush through its ear. Back to holster. Back to breath. Preach with it, boyo, my father hollers, and his pistol answers twice, fast and mean, somewhere at my back. A body drops behind me with a throat full of gravel. Two more close from my right, one low, one high. They don't coordinate, they collide. Low gets there first. I quarter step to line them up, bring the butt of the maul under its jaw like a rising door, feel teeth break against the hickory. Before high can correct, I cut the maul sideways across its ribs. The wedge head isn't for cutting, but mass breaks. Ribs go like a rotted picket fence. High staggers left. I pivot with it and drive the head through its temple against the post. The post shakes, the skull doesn't. Offhand, one more quick shot for low. Done. Breath in, breath out. Don't get greedy. Two hang back at the fence, jittering like dogs who don't understand leashes. One peels off toward the shed. Shed means tools. Tools mean problems later. Shed, I bark. I got him. My father's voice comes sharp from the porch corner, and the report answers. The shed runner pinwheels into the dust. 3 remain in the yard, all of them testing. One feints to my left, draws me half a step, then another comes straight up the middle for a clinch. No clinches. I drop the maul head, catch its shin with the flat, and hammer the tibia. The bone bows. It screams with that wet train brake sound they make. The fenter commits too late. I backhand the haft across its mouth, feel teeth pop. It recoils but doesn't fall. I don't bother knocking it down. I turn my shoulder to put my back between it and me, deny the angle, and stomp the wounded one's ankle to anchor it in place. Then I rack the maul up, short arc, and drive the crown of the wedge into its chest just under the sternum. Something inside collapses. It exhales and won't inhale again. Right, my father calls, gun barking into the dark. Fence! I spin. One has cleared the posts and is coming in on all fours, elbows bowing backward like a spider that learned a man's trick. I meet it with a low driving swing at the shoulder joint. The head of the maul punches through connective tissue. The arm hangs limp. It tries to climb me. With the other, I clamp the haft against my chest, spike the heel of my hand into its cheek to create an inch of air, then stall it with a knee into the pelvis. It's enough space. I shove it down and post the maul over the collarbones like a barbell. It thrashes. I sink weight. When the fight leaves its legs, I lean off and put a single revolver round through the soft part under its eye. Hush. I'm sweating into my eyes now. My grip itches. Dust cakes my tongue. Fatigue, it picks your pocket when you start counting the bodies. I blink the sting clear and find the last 2. one swaying near the porch rail, one circling wide, tracking my father. The circler learns quick. It uses my father's angle to stay out of my lane. "Cross him! Cross him!" I shout, and my father takes a long step through the angle, forcing the circler to choose between me and a bullet. It chooses wrong. He clips its shoulder, turns it toward me. I take the gift. 2 quick steps, choke up on the haft, and ram the wedge head into the base of its throat. The sound is a wet pop. It drops gagging, and I put a round through the palate. Quiet now. The last one is the worst kind. Long arms, bad posture, patient. It never rushed. It waited while the others dups in as I half-turn, catches my forearm with a knee drop that makes my hand go white to the fingers. The maul slides a foot from my grip. I catch it again, but too low. The rest drives me back into the porch rail and pins, mouth opening over my throat like a man about to drink from a jug. "Silas!" my father shouts, already moving, already firing. A slug skates off the thing's crown with a sound like a spoon against a skillet. He curses, adjusts, fires again. The angle's wrong. My face is in his sights. I jam the maul head sideways into the thing's cheek, wedge it there and pry. The cheekbone cracks, but it keeps coming, teeth clicking together an inch above my skin. I go to the last part of the style, the part I hate, the part that's all ugly. I release the maul with one hand, hook my fingers into the thing's mouth from the side and rip the corner. Flesh gives. Blood slicks my wrist. It flinches enough to make room for a breath. I bring my knee up twice, hard, feel hip joint and then belly. Not enough. It re-cinches the pin. Time stretches thin. Sound fades to a high wire. My arm is going numb under its knee. I can't get a clean line with the pistol. Then one shot tears the night. It comes from the tree line. Slower, heavier, deliberate. Like somebody measured the noise and then decided how much of it the world deserved. The rest on top of me stops. Mid-bite, mid-breath, as if listening to a secret. A hole appears clean in the side of its head. Weight pours onto me as it slides down. I twist, roll, and shove it off with a haft, lungs tearing at the air like bark. I stagger to my feet, revolver out, searching for the next threat. The yard is still, except for my father's footfalls and that last pistol round he sends into the one on the rail to be sure. Silence, then breath. The echo of that single, measured shot hangs under the branches as if the trees themselves are holding it between them, deciding whether to keep it. Later that night, after the bodies are dragged to the pit and the boards scrubbed clean of what the dark always brings, the house feels heavier, as if the world itself is leaning in to listen. My father says nothing. I say less. The maul leans against the wall like a sleeping hound, the revolver cool beside it. Outside, the cottonwood bends in the wind, and beyond it, the tree line waits. They said Gren Bachman watched the house at night. They said he never slept again. I close my eyes and pretend to believe them. Tomorrow they'll draw names from the hat, and maybe one will be mine. Either way, the road to the train is already calling, and I can feel it, the world shifting beneath me, like something vast turning in its grave. Chapter 2, The Hat.